What if the key to true wealth wasn't in your wallet, but in the energy around you, quietly waiting to be aligned? In this fast-paced world, we're told to hustle, save, and strive. Yet even with all that effort, why does peace still feel out of reach? Maybe it's because we've been looking in the wrong places. April 26th, 2025 isn't just another date. It's a powerful, energetic window. And today, you'll discover 6 lucky numbers, not for gambling, but for guiding. These numbers, rooted in Buddhist teachings, are mirrors. They reflect parts of you ready to awaken: connection, stillness, joy, expression, release, and purpose. This isn't just about money. It's about aligning with the kind of abundance that touches every corner of your life. Before we dive in, to kick off this journey, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss insights that can shift your life. And here's your first step. Comment below. I welcome growth and harmony into my life. That small act? It's your first declaration to the universe. Let's begin. Part 1. Number 2. Connection is the currency of real wealth. There's a silent epidemic in modern life. It's not always visible, but it's deeply felt. Loneliness. We live in the most connected era in human history. Yet so many of us feel disconnected, isolated, and emotionally distant. That's why number 2 is not just a number. It's a spiritual signal. A reminder that true abundance doesn't grow in isolation. It flourishes in community, in companionship, in connection. In Buddhist wisdom, this truth is rooted in the concept of kalyana mitta, spiritual friendship. The Buddha taught admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie is not half of the holy life. It is the whole of the holy life. Think about that. In a world obsessed with individual success, we're being told that walking with others is the path itself, not just support along the way. Let me tell you a story. In a small town just outside Seattle lives a woman named Margaret, now 93 years old. Every morning without fail, she puts on her walking shoes, wraps her scarf, and meets her best friend Helen, who's 89, at the same oak tree by the lake. They've done this every morning for over 25 years. They talk. Sometimes they don't. They laugh. Sometimes they cry. But they always walk. Margaret once said, "I think the reason I'm still alive is because Helen shows up, and I show up for her. That's kept us both going." No supplements, no gym memberships, no biohacking. Just presence, love, and daily togetherness. That's the spirit of number 2. So often we measure wealth by the zeros in a bank account. But what about the value of a warm hand to hold? A friend who remembers your story? A familiar face at your door? On April 30th, 2025, number 2 invites you to reflect deeply. Who is walking this life with you? Who do you support? And who supports you? Have you mistaken independence for strength, when what your soul really craves is connection? You see, success built alone often feels hollow. But even small achievements, shared with someone who understands you, become rich with meaning. Sometimes we don't need more money. We just need more moments of togetherness. So today, let this number inspire a real action. Call someone you love. Text someone you've drifted away from. Ask a neighbor how they're doing. Because each small act of connection is like planting a seed in the garden of your soul. And over time, that becomes the kind of wealth no market crash can touch. Number 2 reminds us, we rise higher when we rise together. And there is no fortune more enduring than a heart that knows it's not alone. Part 2. Number 7. Intuition and the sacred power of stillness. In a world constantly pulling us outward, toward breaking news, endless to-do lists, and the pressure to always be productive, there's a quiet voice within that often gets drowned out. That voice is intuition, and that's what number 7 invites us to rediscover. On April 26, 2025, number 7 isn't just a symbol of luck. It's a sacred number that calls you back to your inner knowing. In Buddhist tradition, 7 holds deep significance. It's said that the Buddha took 7 steps immediately after birth, each one symbolizing the beginning of a spiritual path. His steps were not rushed. They were intentional. In the human body, we also find this sacred pattern in the 7 chakras, energy centers that influence how we feel, think, and relate to the world. When these centers are balanced, we experience clarity, calm, and connection. But when we're overwhelmed or disconnected, everything starts to feel out of sync. Let me share a simple story. There's a retired man named George living in Arizona. After retiring from a stressful job, George felt lost. He wasn't ill, but something was off. He had time, yet couldn't enjoy it. He had freedom, yet felt stuck. One day, after watching a video on mindfulness, George decided to try something new. 10 minutes of silent meditation each morning. No apps, no music, just breath and stillness. In the beginning, it felt uncomfortable. His mind raced, his body fidgeted. But over weeks, something shifted. His mornings felt grounded. His decisions became clearer. His days had more flow. George said, "I started hearing myself again, not my fears or my regrets, but my real self." That is the sacred power of number 7, the wisdom that doesn't scream, but whispers. In Buddhist thought, silence is not empty. It's full of answers. When you pause, even briefly, you invite your intuition to rise. And intuition is not just a mystical feeling. It's your inner compass, a deeper intelligence that modern life often teaches us to ignore. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in true stillness? Have you been listening more to external noise than to your internal truth? What would shift if you gave your intuition 10 quiet minutes each day? Number 7 is an invitation, not to run from the noise, but to rise above it. To remember that clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from listening more deeply. So today, create space, sit, breathe. Let your thoughts settle like sand in water. And in that stillness, watch how insight begins to surface. Not as force, but as flow. Because the most powerful guidance often comes not from outside advice, but from within. And number 7 reminds us, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. Part 3. Number 6. Joy and simplicity over hustle and noise. We've been told that success comes from doing more, chasing more, achieving more. But number 6 offers a softer, wiser truth. Real joy lives in simplicity. In the hustle and noise of modern life, we're encouraged to run harder, move faster, and fill every second. But in that race, we often miss the very things that make life rich. A shared laugh, a quiet meal, a morning breeze. Number 6. Especially on a reflective day like April 26, 2025, calls us back to what truly nourishes us. Not in our bank account, but in our heart. In Buddhist wisdom, this message is beautifully captured in the words of the Buddha. Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, and faithfulness the best relationship. There's nothing extravagant in that sentence. No mansion, no promotion, just health, contentment, and loyalty, the cornerstones of a joyful life. Let's ground this in something real. Meet Nancy, a 75-year-old widow who lives in a small cottage in Vermont. She doesn't have much by modern standards. No fancy car, no latest gadgets. But her days are full. She starts each morning by cooking oatmeal while watching the sun rise through her kitchen window. In the afternoon, she walks down her lane and waves to neighbors she's known for decades. Once a week, she hosts a tea circle in her backyard. No agenda, just stories and smiles. When asked what keeps her so content, Nancy says, "I don't own a lot, but I've got everything I need right here. Warm meals, good people, fresh air, and a quiet heart." That's number 6 embodied. It's the joy of stirring a pot of soup for someone you love, the peace of hearing birdsong on a morning walk, the comfort of knowing your life doesn't need to be bigger. It just needs to feel yours. Ask yourself, have I been chasing goals at the cost of small pleasures? Am I making time to enjoy the simple, ordinary things? What if joy wasn't something I earned, but something I could allow? Number 6 gently nudges us to slow down, not out of laziness, but out of love. Love for this moment, this breath, this quiet cup of tea. You don't need 1,000 things to feel rich. You just need one genuine moment of presence. And when your heart is light, your energy aligns with abundance. Not the loud kind, but the kind that settles into your bones. So today, take a walk. Cook something with care. Call someone just to say hello. Let number 6 remind you, you are already surrounded by blessings. All that's left is to notice them. Part 4, number 11, awakening to a higher calling. There comes a point in life, especially after 60, when the question quietly rises. Is this all there is? The schedules may be full, the children grown, the career completed. But the soul, it still stirs. That stirring, that quiet ache for something more meaningful, is where number 11 speaks loudest. Known as a master number in numerology, 11 is not about comfort. It's about awakening. It signals a spiritual nudge, a call to rise beyond routine and remember the dreams you once tucked away in drawers labeled someday. Buddhist teachings remind us there are only 2 mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. And often we stop before we even begin. We tell ourselves, I'm too old now. But the truth? There's no age limit on purpose. Let me share a real story. There's a man named Thomas, 67, who spent his whole life working as an accountant. Solid, responsible, respected. But he always had a quiet passion for painting. He hadn't picked up a brush in 40 years. After retirement, his daughter gifted him a simple watercolor set and said, "Just play with it, Dad." At first, he resisted. "That's kid stuff," he said. But one quiet morning, he sat by the window, dipped the brush in blue, and something opened. Now, Thomas paints every week. He's joined a local art group. He's even held a small gallery show at the community center. More importantly, he's never felt more alive. That's number 11. It's not about fame. It's not about proving anything. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. If you've had a calling, a book unwritten, a garden unplanted, a song unsung, this is your sign. The world still needs that part of you. Your wisdom, your scars, your voice. They're not liabilities. They are your light. Number 11 bridges the visible and invisible, the practical and the spiritual. And after 60, when life slows down, the noise fades, and reflection deepens, that's when this number often arrives. Not with a shout, but with a whisper. You're not done yet. Ask yourself, what dream have I buried? What would I do if I wasn't afraid of failing? What legacy do I want to leave? Not in money, but in meaning. Let today, April 26th, be your beginning. Not a grand leap, but a gentle step toward your truth. Write that poem, plant that seed, call that mentor, sign up for that class. It's not too late. It never was. Because awakening isn't a destination, it's a decision. And the higher calling, it's not out there. It's already inside you, waiting to be remembered. Part 5. Number 3. Speak, even if your voice shakes. Words are powerful. They can heal. They can divide. They can build bridges or burn them down. And in the quiet wisdom of number 3, we are reminded that our voice is sacred. In Buddhism, one of the pillars of the Eightfold Path is right speech, which means speaking with truth, compassion, and purpose. It's not just about what you say, but why and how you say it. Number 3 is often linked to expression, authentic, creative, and vulnerable. And sometimes the hardest words to say are the ones that have been trapped in your heart for decades. Let me tell you about Raymond, a retired carpenter from Illinois. At 78, he lived alone in a small bungalow filled with tools, old books, and silence. But for over 20 years, that silence had extended to his only son, Daniel. They had fallen out after a bitter disagreement. Pride took over. Years passed. Birthdays, holidays, milestones, missed. Raymond watched from a distance, reading Facebook updates, but never reaching out. He wanted to, but fear and shame held his tongue. Then one day, after a conversation at his local Buddhist center about right speech, something shifted. He realized that truth doesn't always arrive in perfect packaging. Sometimes it comes trembling, with teary eyes and a shaky voice. So he picked up the phone. When Daniel answered, the silence was heavy, but Raymond simply said, "I've waited too long to say this. I'm sorry. I miss you." There were no grand speeches, just honesty, and in that moment something broke, and something healed. Today they speak every Sunday. They don't talk about the lost years. They focus on the years left. That is the healing power of speech, not spoken to impress, but to connect. Number 3 invites you to ask, what words have I been holding back? Who needs to hear my truth, not as a performance, but as a gift? Am I speaking to control or to heal? In a world full of noise, it's easy to shout and hard to speak from the heart. But number 3 doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be real. You don't need a stage. You don't need applause. You just need courage. Because the words you say to a loved one, to yourself, or even to a stranger in passing, they matter. And silence, when it holds pain or truth unspoken, can be heavier than any burden. So today, on April 26th, let number 3 move through you. Send the message, write the letter, speak the words that have been waiting. Even if your voice shakes, because the moment you release those words, spoken with love and sincerity, you're not just freeing them, you're freeing yourself. And that, too, is abundance. Part 6. Number 9. The grace of letting go. There's a quiet wisdom that comes with age. An understanding that not everything we carry is meant to be held forever. That's what number 9 teaches us. It's not just the final digit before we start over. It's a symbol of endings, of release, of sacred space made for something new to begin. In Buddhist teachings, the act of letting go is not a form of weakness. It's a sign of awakening. As the Buddha so simply put it, you only lose what you cling to. We cling out of fear, out of habit, out of memory. But sometimes what we're holding on to is what's holding us back. Let me tell you a story. In a quiet suburb of Minneapolis, there's an elderly woman named Agnes, now 84. Her husband passed nearly 2 decades ago. Her children have moved far away, and over time her home had become a shrine to the past. Closets filled with clothes no one wore, drawers stuffed with letters unread, and shelves lined with mementos she didn't even remember collecting. Agnes didn't consider it clutter. She called it her memories. But deep down, it was all becoming too heavy. One autumn afternoon, a neighbor invited her to a minimalist living workshop. Agnes went reluctantly, but something stuck with her. If you don't make room, nothing new can come in. The next morning she began. First the kitchen, then the old guest room, then finally the closet with her late husband's belongings. It wasn't easy. There were tears. There was guilt. But with each box donated, with each drawer emptied, Agnes said she felt a little lighter. It was like shedding old skin, she shared. I didn't lose the memories. I just gave them space to breathe. A month later, she turned that old guest room into a craft space. She started painting. She joined a local group of seniors who host weekend art shows. And for the first time in years, she said she felt alive. That is the quiet miracle of number 9. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply asks, are you ready to make space for what's next? Letting go can look different for each of us. Maybe it's a relationship that no longer brings peace. Maybe it's an old goal that no longer reflects who you are. Maybe it's just a drawer full of things that once mattered, but no longer serve your heart. The key is to release with gratitude, not guilt. To understand that endings are not failures. They are fertile ground for rebirth. On this April 26th, let number 9 be your invitation. Not to erase the past, but to honor it, and then gently set it down. Ask yourself, what have I been clinging to? What would feel lighter if I let it go? What beauty might grow in its place? Because just like the trees in fall, shedding isn't death. It's preparation for new life and the courage to let go. That might just be the richest form of abundance you'll ever know. Part 7. Redefining wealth. What abundance really means. When you hear the word wealth, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most, it's money. A bigger bank account, a nicer house, a life free of bills. But what if we've been chasing the wrong version of wealth all along? Real abundance, the kind that lasts, the kind that fulfills, doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your heart. On this journey of spiritual reflection, especially as we move through the energy of April 26th, we're invited to pause and ask, what does it truly mean to be rich? In Buddhist teachings, true wealth is rooted in 3 things: inner peace, gratitude, loving kindness. You can have millions and still feel poor if your mind is restless, your heart is bitter, or your life lacks meaning. And yet, a person with little material gain can feel completely full because they wake each morning with gratitude, move through the day with love, and rest each night in peace. Wealth is not about how much you collect. It's about how deeply you connect to your purpose, your people, your present moment. Let me put it this way. A kind word spoken from the heart is a form of wealth. A home filled with laughter, not luxury, is a form of wealth, a moment of stillness where you feel whole. That is priceless. Ask yourself, am I chasing more money or more meaning? Have I overlooked the blessings already around me? Today, let's rewrite the definition of wealth. Let it include morning sunlight, shared meals, forgiveness, presence, creativity, and contentment. Because when you realize that nothing is missing, everything begins to feel like a gift. And that, my friend, is abundance. Part 8. Daily practices to align with abundance. Turning everyday life into a ritual of wealth. Abundance isn't something you stumble upon once in a lifetime. It's something you practice, moment by moment. So how do we invite abundance? Not just in wealth, but in energy, peace, and fulfillment into our daily lives? The answer is simple. Rituals of awareness. Not grand, complicated routines. Just small, sacred habits that realign your energy with gratitude, presence, and clarity. When repeated with intention, they become what we might call daily ceremonies of abundance. Here are a few practices you can begin today. 1. Morning stillness, 5 to 10 minutes. Before you pick up your phone or dive into the noise of the day, sit quietly. Breathe in, breathe out. Focus on nothing but your breath and your being. This creates space for clarity, and it signals to your mind, I start my day in peace, not panic. 2. Gratitude journaling. Every morning or evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't need to be profound, just true. A warm cup of tea, a kind message, a pain-free day. Gratitude is magnetic. The more you notice what you already have, the more life gives you to be thankful for. 3. Mindful breathing breaks. Set a timer to 3 times a day to pause and take 3 conscious breaths. It's a reset button. In those seconds, remind yourself, this moment is enough. These small acts, done with sincerity, are not just habits. They are wealth in motion. They keep you from chasing more and bring you back to what already is. Because true abundance isn't found in what you own. It's found in how fully you live this very moment. So let every breath, every page you write, and every silent pause become a sacred gesture. One that says, I am ready. I am grateful. I am aligned. And in that alignment, abundance flows. And now, you've arrived at the end of the journey. But in truth, this is only the beginning. We've walked together through 6 sacred numbers. Not lottery tickets, not magical formulas, but mirrors, reflecting the deeper truths of your life. The power of connection through number 2. The wisdom of stillness in number 7. The joy of simplicity found in number 6. The awakening of purpose stirred by number 11. The healing in truth through number 3. And the freedom of letting go gifted by number 9. Each number wasn't just a lesson, it was an invitation to feel more deeply, to live more intentionally, to align with a version of wealth that doesn't fade with time or depend on circumstance. Because true abundance has never been about having more. It's always been about being more. More aware, more present, more at peace. So here's your next step, and it's simple. Take one practice from today. Just one. Start small, stay consistent, and watch how your life begins to shift. Not overnight, but from the inside out. And if this message has touched something within you, give this video a like, subscribe for more mindful wisdom. Comment below. I am aligned with abundant living. Let that be your affirmation, your first step toward a life filled not just with gain, but with meaning. May you walk this path gently, with open hands and an open heart. May you release what no longer serves you, and may you always remember, you are already enough.